For those of you who don't know, my name is Jordan Randalls, and today I'm going to be doing an exercise in thoughtfulness, the sacred secular divide in media choices. So, I'm going to show you a series of characters, and I'll explain why a little bit later. Ready? Okay. What are your impressions of these characters? Without knowing anything about their films. Well, James Bond is kind of obvious. Alright, so these two characters
Is Rick Ford the character's name or the actor's name?
The character's name.
Okay.
So, they're from two different rated films. James Bond is from Skyfall, which is rated PG-13 for intense violent sequences throughout, some sexuality language, and smoking. Rick Ford is from Spy, which is rated R for language throughout, violence, and some sexual content, including brief graphic nudity and 88 uses of the F word.
May we interrupt, or should we wait till you're done?
If you want.
I'm just curious. I mean, is it really? I haven't looked. Is it really true that smoking is now what grants a film PG-13?
Well, it's part of it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, is that what would it usually would be?
Well, I mean, I understand the other ones, but it's almost making smoking the moral equivalent of sexuality, bad language, and that kind of thing. So, and then there's
crazy.
smoking.
Smoking on TV programs.
Yeah, right. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I just found it remarkable.
that is crazy.
All right, we got Jules Winfield and Nick Fury. What are your impressions of these characters, just from taking a look?
The same actor.
Is that
Same actor. Mm-hmm.
That'd be a dramatic role.
Yeah, like young versus old.
Yeah.
All right, second set. Jules Winfield is from Pulp Fiction, which is rated R for strong graphic violence and drug use, pervasive strong language, and some sexuality. 201 uses of the F word.
That is extreme.
The Avengers is rated PG-13 for intense sequences of sci-fi violence and action throughout, and a mild drug reference. Third set. This is the NWA, and these are the Incredibles. What are your impressions of these characters?
Incredibles probably don't smoke.
Nope.
Probably not.
Straight Outta Compton is rated R for language throughout, strong sexuality and nudity, violence, and drug use. 335 uses of the F word. The Incredibles is rated PG for action violence. Alright, so why did I show you those? The rating of a film can have such overwhelming power on our impressions, unless we have seen the movie, and this is a problem with the rating system for Christians. The MPAA itself says, and I quote, "By issuing a rating, it seeks to inform parents of the level of a certain content in a motion picture, which can be either violent, sex, drugs, language, thematic material, adult activities, etc., that parents may deem inappropriate for viewing by their children." Now, there are two things that I would note. With Jules Winfield, who's from Pulp Fiction, which uses 201 F words and it's rated R and all this kind of stuff, the rating does not include the part at the end of the movie where it's probably one of the biggest acts of forgiveness I've ever seen in a film, like from any film. Basically, there's this guy who's gonna rob this coffee store, and Jules is like a hitman. He like kills people for a living. Obviously, his lifestyle is like not great or whatever, but he's shot by this one guy with this huge gun, and he thinks it's pretty much point blank, but all the bullets miss him and his partner, and he tells his partner, he's like, "Vincent, that was a divine act of God." And Vincent's like, "No, that's just chance." And Jules says, no, that was definitely God. And by the end of the film, he's so convicted about this act of God that he saw that he's thinking of leaving the hitman business and wandering the earth trying to find God's will for his life. And there's a dude who's trying to rob this restaurant, and he has, Jules is pointing his gun at him, and he says, "Usually I would kill you, but I'm trying real hard to be a shepherd. I'm going to give you $1,500 in cash, and I'm going to let you go. You're trying to steal this place? Take the wallets, take my money, and leave. And I'm not going to kill you." Because he says something pretty much throughout the film. He's like, if you hear this, you die. He gives him forgiveness, and it's so well acted. And like, this rating, yes, there is strong graphic violence and drug use, pervasive strong language, and some sexuality. However, it doesn't include, the MPAA is not there to give you the values of a film. A rating is for content itself, but has nothing to do with the values. Now, if you want to watch Pulp Fiction, you're going to have to listen to 200, the F word said 201 times. That's up to you. But it doesn't say, whether the film teaches a really great lesson or not. There are some films that are rated PG that teach terrible lessons to kids. And there are films that are rated R that, honestly, like I just watched Pulp Fiction a couple days ago, and like, it really hit me, that forgiveness. Someone who's so hard, deciding to let somebody go, made me think, man, is there anybody that I'm not forgiving? Philippians 4:8 says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Now, one thing that I find peculiar about Philippians 4:8 is that it doesn't say, finally, brothers, if there's anything worthy of thing, only think about these things. It just says, think about these things. Because if we think about Christ's death, I don't know if, it's true, but I don't know if it's a lovely thing, but it's kind of a rough thing. This is a little rough around the edges. If you ever watched Passion of the Christ, which I'm sure many of us have, that movie's not, PG. It's literally rated R. Because Christ's death is kind of a gruesome thing. Let's look at the Apostle Paul. If we really thought about the Apostle Paul's life, he murdered Christians in the beginning. He was a murderer. He didn't like Christians. And if we made a film about his life, would it be rated G? Or, if he's murdering Christians? Because I feel like a lot of times we can be selective in what we want to present without presenting the full story. So the Apostle Paul is a man who, he was one of the greatest apostles and evangelists of all time. And without him, we probably wouldn't be Christians today. However, his past is a rough past. But I think we would take away the power of Paul if we only presented the side where he's perfect, he's good, and kind of fits in the Christian mold that we have today, without including, his nature. He's a human. He has flaws. I feel like a lot of times in media that Christians like to watch, we watch things where people are fully evil and fully good, whereas in real life, people who may be evil have reasons for doing what they do. They have a heart. They have an experience. They've been hurt. Hurt people. And then good people, Christians, people who are the heroes in stories. All people have flaws. And characters that are presented as perfect aren't really relatable. And I think we can connect with people like Paul. We can connect with people like, like Noah. He got drunk and stuff. Would we just ignore that in a film about Noah? Oh, he didn't get drunk. That doesn't fit my Christian mold. I'm going to just say he didn't. There's a sacred, secular divide in our worldview. When Christians can be intolerant about the things of the world, non-believers notice, and not necessarily in a good way. Have you ever thought that you were better than someone else because they did something that you don't do, or think in a way that you don't think? I know I have. I've been in conversations where people have been talking about, man, these people